Hi, it's Lel from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Today, if stay tuned if you want to learn how to. I'm going to be doing a bit of. I wasn't planning on it, but I'm now decoupaging. I'm going to be colour washing. I'm going to be stamping. I'm going to be doing a bit of typography, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of texture. 5 things. So stay tuned, and let's see what we're doing today. So today I'm going to be doing a fire surround. Seems a bit strange, doesn't it? I actually sell a lot of them. Because I live not that far away from the city, the capital of Scotland in Edinburgh, quite a lot of people there have flats. So they don't have actual working chimneys, but they want a nice surround. So quite a lot of people come and get a surround off me. You just screw them into the wall and put it round a sort of fake fire. If it's for a real fire, you will have to use non-flammable sealer. That is a must. My sealer is non-flammable, so we're fine. What are we going to be doing? The first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using this paper here from the Skullduggery. I've never used it yet, and I was considering going all out bohemian because people buy them like that, but I thought, do you know what, I'm going to be a little bit more reserved today, a little bit unusual, a little bit different. So I was thinking, what have I got in my armoury? And initially I was going to put moulds and all these different things in it, and I pivoted on a kind of like really fast and thought, I know what I could do. So what I'm actually sitting here doing just now is I'm just ripping. I'm going to have a couple of these big butterflies, so I'm just ripping those out of the middle, and with my leftovers I'm literally just going to rip off the white edges, and I'm just going to end up with quite a few pieces and parts sitting on the floor. So in a couple of minutes I'll get Mark to come back and you can see me just deciding where these are going to go. I'm putting these onto my piece first. I'm applying them with a generous coat of Mod Podge. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to start doing my paintwork round about it. Pieces and parts, got them ripped out kind of the way I want it. I'm not going to get you to see me do all of this, but I'll get you to see some of where my thoughts are going. Who knows where they're going today? Matt's laughing. It's been one of those days already. Right, okay. So the two big, I've got two ripped out butterflies, but I don't want to go there and there. That would just look weird. So I'm going to kind of think that I'm maybe going to put one here. Now I've got this bumpy join groove that it's going to have to go in as well. So I think the best course of action is to get our Mod Podge on, and I'm going up into there as well. I'm going to try not to cut it. I might have to sand this bottom edge, but now remember, when you're putting my decoupage paper on, nice and smooth, but plenty of it, but not too thick. You'll get wrinkles if that's the case. So I'm thinking, where did I have it? About there, didn't I? I'm going to go in that bump first and then over onto here first and up onto that top part. Then I'm going to go down into that groove. I want it to stick there, but I want it to come under this groove here. Now it's a wee bit fiddly, but we'll just take your time if you're taking it round bends and edges. I didn't bring my glue far enough out here for this part. So make sure you're pushing it in at the edges there. You don't want any loose parts. And I'm just going to do that over the cross there. Now, as I said, just take your time and really make sure that it's stuck down. I'm just putting a little bit around the edges. Oh, left a little bit of white edge there, which I don't want. So, voila, that's one on. Now, this is the stage sometimes where people go a little bit bananas. Even I do it. You think, oh, that's got a bit of wrinkle. I need to rub it. Leave it alone. Leave it alone, and it will be absolutely wrinkle-free. I don't know whether I'm going to sand that part off anyway, but I think I might just make it go underneath like that. Now, leave it alone. My next butterfly, Martin's standing on my head. Oh no, it's up here. He's not standing on it at all. I'm wanting to go sort of You don't want them going the same way. You want a sort of opposite kind of, you know, like they're flying around. And take that part off there. So I think what I'm going to do is do this one here. Now, you're getting the general gist what I'm doing with the butterfly. So I'll quickly apply this and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with some of my pieces and parts. So I'm thinking something like this. Into this groove first. So if you're doing a piece of awkward furniture, you just do it the same way. Do your awkward parts first, always. So you've done your awkward part there, then you're doing this tiny little groove here, then into this groove here, into this groove here, and then you're pushing this under like that so that it's seamless like that. Making sure that there's no wrinkles, making sure there's plenty of glue because I'm going to take that round there as well and that round here. And all I'm going to do to finish is go round my edges like that and then leave it alone. Now with what I've got left, and I have other sheets here, but because we're going to kind of introduce some of this stamping effect here. Martin, you've got a cough, Martin. I think everybody's now he's coughing all through my video. We'll have to get a new cameraman. So I'm going to be doing something like that. There's obviously as well some typography here. So I'm going to be doing something like that, and I'm going to introduce these colours at some point. So I'm just going to do things like possibly add some of this to these pillars and some pieces and parts. So I'm going to go off and do that, and you can see where I've ended up putting them. I think that's probably maybe better going like that. Or maybe it would be exciting if I did something like this. This might be work better for me. So I'm going to go on and put my ripped parts on and show you where I've gone. We'll let them dry, and then we're coming in with a cream colour to start with, which is Old Ochre from Annie Sloan. Now, ochre makes it think you're going to get a yellow, but you're not. That's the colour. Okay, so it's a sort of creamy colour. I love this. This is my white. I don't use white, but if I do want a paler piece of furniture, this is the colour I use. So I'm going to go on, stick these on, and we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to do a wee bit of a test here. I want to put a little bit of texture on this piece now. I did a piece recently with bentonite clay, and it was absolutely perfect. It worked out perfectly. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it, and I've used it before, no problems. But obviously I want to try everything so I can say to people. So I went and purchased this, which is salt wash. Everybody's using it at the moment. I want to see what it's like compared to the bentonite clay. I really don't think there's going to be a huge amount of difference, but I wanted to just compare prices. This was £19. This was £5.99. And I know if I wanted to go out and buy this in bulk, I probably could. So I'm not knocking salt wash because I think it's a wonderful product and I've seen a lot of people use it. I'm just wanting to try it out myself, just so I know myself which one I prefer. I might not even tell you which one I prefer at the end, just because I don't want to be bad-mouthing anyone. That's not very kind. So salt wash. I don't want my paint hugely thick. I've got a metal container here because it's going to stick, and I like to wash out my plastic ones. So I want to put enough in to do the piece, but I can always mix up a little bit more. Now, I'm not doing the directions, obviously, because I'm a rebel. I'm not doing the directions that they say because I don't want this super, super, super thick. I just want enough to bring my paint up to my decoupage paper. I'm just going to be working on this part here right now. So I'm only going to put in just a scoop into this. In fact, maybe not even, yeah, I'm just putting a scoop into this amount of paint just now. And I'm not even going to stir it up with a stirrer. I'm just going to use my brush. I'm a rebel, Martin's just said. I would suggest if you're using any product for the first time, you read the instructions, of which I have done. I read the instructions of the salt wash and went, okay. So that's already thickened that up quite considerably, which to me feels quite nice. There's a few kind of lumpy parts in, but that's maybe a good thing. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my cream. Now I know it's not the colour of my decoupage paper, but we will get to that. And all I'm doing is I'm going to put texture. This is my starting layer round everywhere where I've been with my decoupage paper, and just get it into all of these nooks and crannies with my cream first of all, before I start trying to blend in other colours that are going to make it all pull together. So literally all I'm going to do is kind of go round it like that. Some of it's not quite dry yet, but it's enough that I know that it's not going to go anywhere. Get a wee bit of glue on that. So this is all I'm doing. So I'm going to go away and do that, yeah, and then we will reconvene at the next stage. Okay, so when you put decoupage paper on, you need to try and camouflage this line here. It's got a bit damp because I've put paint around it, but it will all dry in. So you need to try and camouflage the line. So I've put a bit of texture on my first coat. Now this is still reasonably wet, and I've mixed up this colour here, which isn't quite this colour here or this colour here, but there'll be more going on this. So I wasn't too concerned how I did it. There was still the little bit left over of the salt wash in the bottom here, so it's still reasonably quite thick. Now I've got a big brush and a small brush. I want to try and join this up, but I want to try and keep some of the cream. So I'm going to kind of go something like this, and I should be able to blend this to lighter, and then maybe use my other little brush here to make it a little bit darker. It's going to be quite a textured piece, so I should be able to blend from light to dark. So I'm going to want a darker piece up here. And now this is a case of just taking your time and deciding what colours you want where. I want to bring in my lighter, oh god, that stuck to a bit of decoupage paper. I want to bring in my lighter colour here, in this area here, and I want to try and fade it out here. So I'm going to do a little bit of the dark here and down here, and I will add other colours, but then I'm just going to use my lighter brush and just kind of, so you can see what I'm doing. My decoupage paper is quite wet right now, it'll dry. It's just that it should all dry perfect the way I want it, but there's only really one way to keep on blending, and that's to have wet paint on underneath. So this is what I'm going to do all over the piece, and you'll see at the end when I come back to this that I've left some parts quite cream, some parts a little bit darker, and then we'll get to try and blend in it a little bit more with some more darker colours. But this is how I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to go on and do that now, and I'm going to blend this away to the way I want it. As per usual, when you're doing something like this, it's better to work in sections, one side, so 3 panels. First of all, what we're going to do is I have certain stamps here. I have the large piece from the IOD 12 stamp. I might use this. This is from the Peony stamp IOD. This is from the 12 stamp. It's just a lot of writing. I think this is one of the leaves from the Sunflower stamp, and this is from the one with the pumpkins. I'll get Martin to drop the link. I also have some of these typewriter fonts, because as you can see, there's a sort of typewriter-y font in the paper here that I want. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to make the paper sit back in the piece. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I'm going to show you as much as will give you an idea of what I've been doing. So I'm down on the ground here. You don't need to see that. I'm making a right mess. I have my stamp, and I'm using the 12 stamps. Now first, I'm just using sections. I just want to put a section in there, and I don't care whether it's a perfect stamp. I'm just trying to bring the piece together now. So let's see what that's done. Yeah, and I quite like so we're going for that sort of kind of, I'm stamping some areas and I'm not stamping other areas, just so I can get this sort of like so, just pushing it down in some and kind of not pushing as hard in other areas. I'm wondering if I could get another part out of here. Whoop. I maybe should have picked a smaller one from the set, and I'm going to run this along this bottom area here. So you get what I'm trying to achieve here. I'm just starting now to kind of make this all sit naturally in its home, as opposed to it's just loads of bits stuck on with some paint round about it, because that's the trick to this. So that there, I'm wondering if I've got enough ink on my pad to do that part there. Maybe not. So it's just patience. That's the key for this, because it takes a wee while to get it just the way you want it, but that's okay. Right. I'm not going to go any further along there. Next thing I'm probably going to do is I'm going to introduce some of these leaves, because there's leaves in the piece and that's just going nowhere right now, which we'll deal with that with some colour, but not a lot of them. So I might do a half sort of stamp up in there and maybe some ivy up in here. Just a couple of leaves. So let's just put a few on. Now I'm going to be painting these in. I haven't made up my mind whether I'm going to paint them, stamp them and paint them, or just paint them straight away. I haven't really. I don't want that to touch up there on the edge. So as you can see, I'm kind of folding it down. But I need to get my fingers up into that edge, just like that. There. So there's your leaf. And what I'm doing now is I'm literally just building up details that I can start bringing in some of the colours. I've got the words. I don't even think it matters if they're upside down or they're sideways. Just putting some letters in here and maybe some on there, and maybe a wee section there, there, there. I'm going stamping crazy. So you can see I'm starting to build it up. That there looks like it's a piece of paper that's been stuck over the top of there now, which kind of finishes that off. I want a few more leaves, and I also have my pennies stamp here, which I'm going to stamp the whole thing, but whether I use the whole thing I don't know, because I want to put a bit of a floral in this. So I'm thinking maybe something like that here, and we'll get some colour into this. So if I've done that here, I need to do something over the other side. Maybe I'll actually maybe put this penny stamp up in this edge, up in this corner. So I'll just stamp it. Now I'm going to go away now, once I've stamped this flower in, and I'm just going to start sort of adding a little bit of colour to where I've done some of this stamping. But you see what I'm doing? I'm just building up texture and layers so that it's bringing it all together. It's making the decoupage paper sit back. It's all about the panels. We're only working on this panel right now. We're not focusing on anything else, just this panel, because then it's not as overwhelming. If you start looking at it as a whole, you're going, oh, where am I going and what am I doing? So you can see what I'm doing here. I think I want some words in here, in that little section there, maybe here. And I'm going to try and bring in a couple more leaves. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just filling up the space with things that I can put colour in and bringing it some texture in. Okay, so we've finished this section, or there's going to be a bit of palette knife distress in white, but we're nearly finished this section. So the leaves that I stamped, I painted in with the coordinating colours that came from there. I finished off a bit more word stamping. I put the penny stamp over that end and here and painted in that leaf. And then in the paper, there's a slight pinky sort of tinge about it. So what I did was I just ran here and there little elements of pink, just a little bit, not a lot, into the piece, just around it. So just to kind of show you quickly, because I've done the stamping on this end now, there was absolutely no finesse in what I actually did. I just got my paint and I just mixed up a sort of colour that I was happy with, that worked with the piece. And then all I did was, and my brush is quite big as well, I just kind of did that. I don't know if that's a leaf, but we'll do that. We'll kind of swap our colours out and we'll add a little bit more red to this mix, and I just literally gave it the sort of look that there was leaves and things. These are the toile stamps. I don't need to paint these in. So here's another big leaf here, and this time round I'll put a little bit more yellow in my paint, and I just alternated to match the sort of colours of the stencil. And again, I just went in it just like that. I mean, I didn't, you know, I mean, maybe I'm rushing a little bit on camera, but I just kind of gave it the sort of look like there was a leaf there, and that's all I did on the top. And then what I did once I'd got my leaves in was I just had my pink brush with a little bit of beige in it, and I just kind of picked out some areas that I wanted to do a little bit pink. So maybe there, and maybe a little bit of pink here and here, and that's all I did, just to kind of finish it off. So I'm going to get on and finish this side. The other side is going to be exactly the same, and then we're going to get to a little bit of palette knife distressing in some white and work out what I might want to do with these up here, whether I want to maybe just put a little bit more textured paint on them, or we'll see. So, but we need to have all the details done first. What I'm doing now is I'm just heavily distressing it. Now, you have to pick areas that don't have decoupage paper on them, and I'm just taking it back to the pine, and I've done that all over the fireplace, and that will become clear to you when Martin pans out. Now, I've done it everywhere else. You can see I've done up here and along here, and I've done pieces and parts here. So this is where we're at now. As you can see, there's a great big gap here. Yeah. What I'm going to do is I've got my stamps out. I thought of doing it with stencils. So you can do stencils or stamps, and I'm going to stencil the word entomology up here. I don't mind if it goes into this busier part. It's just a suggestion. It's not really, entomology is not really the study of butterflies. It's more the study of insects, and it's got a great big long name, but entomology kind of covers it. It's the study of insects. So we're putting entomology on. So for those that know their stuff, don't bother leaving me a comment. So I'm just kind of working out where I'm going to do this. Now, you know how I feel about this. If I do this on camera, I'm definitely going to make a mess, but I'll do my E so you can get an idea of where I'm going with this. And Martin says, then we'll cut, because you've no idea how squeegee and how squint I could be. I mean, I could use a mat, but I don't like to. I like to just feel it and do it. I'm hoping that I've got enough ink on my stamp. So I'm just going to go all the way up there, stamping entomology up here like that. Then what we're going to do is, and I'll just show you this now so you don't miss out. In this paint, I've got this Cornish milk paint. It's called Siren. It's an absolute gorgeous colour. And instead of a palette knife, I thought, what else can I add to this that is going to pull it together? And I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do a sort of along this bottom edge, and maybe some up here, because there's plenty of texture on this piece, which means that you're not getting, you know, too much lumpy parts. You know, the texture's transferring well with my little spatula. So there's not going to be a huge amount of this. I'm going to maybe do some on the sides as well, and a little bit, you know, maybe even a touch on here, like that. But it's just here and there on the piece. When you see it next, it'll be all over it. You know what I'm like? I say, oh, just a little bit, and then I go, oh, I get a wee bit carried away. More is always more. Right, okay, so I'm going to get on with the entomology part. I'm going to let this blue dry, and then we are going to get on to how we're going to seal it. I'm probably going to seal it with wax, clear wax. So I'll probably seal it with clear wax so that I can come in and show you me dark waxing. So I'm going to be doing something that I don't normally do. You don't very often see me use white wax. Now, white wax is the same principle of dark wax. You need to have your piece covered in clear wax, and this has all been sealed with clear wax. But if I want to bring out the details, I can rub this in here like this, get a clean, dry cloth, and leave the residue of the white behind. So I'm going to be kind of doing this down my edges like this, then rubbing back these parts and leaving sort of a residue here and there to make it look like it's got some texture. I was going to go with the dark, but then I thought, do you know what? I'm going to white wax the top. Now, I haven't done the very, very top. The very, very top has not been clear waxed because I just want to solidly white wax that. So, same sort of principle. You're just waxing it with the white wax. Now, it's got texture on the top, so, brush here. It's got some texture. So we're going to get a little bit of texture as well because I did every way strokes and I still had the paint with the texture in it. So I'm just going to go on. Don't know what that is there, but I'm intending to get it out. Looks like fluff. I'm going to white wax the top, and I'm going to do this little rim at the front, just like that, just to kind of bring it all together. So I'm going to be doing all the detail on the fireplace, and then I'm going to be white waxing the top. Okay. So I hope you've liked today's tutorial. Now remember, everything I've done on this fireplace can just be done on a piece of furniture. You don't have to do it on a fireplace. It's just the concept that I was showing you today. We did a little bit of decoupaging. We added salt wash to our paint to give it a little bit thicker texture. We stamped, we painted, we clear waxed, we white waxed, and I put a tiny little bit of dark wax just along here just to give it a little bit of aging. This was the paper from our own paper made by Marley Magic, and it's from the Skullduggery collection. The top was completely white waxed. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, and can you tell us why in the comments why you liked it, or if you let us know in the comments something you're trying to do and you want me to do it. I'm happy to give it a go if I can. Please, if you've watched this and you haven't already subscribed, could you please subscribe and maybe share this video? Martin and I have a little goal and we're trying to get to 2,000 followers for Christmas time, which was our goal. And the channel is growing every day, but it'd be really good. Yeah, we're nearly there, Martin. We need about 150 people, I think, which is a lot of people to try and find. But if you know anybody that might like to do watch my videos, I do a lot of furniture reimagining, upcycles, and some crafts. So I'll see you again another day. I've been Made by Marley. Thanks for watching.